Welcome back, everybody, to the UKL Twitch channel. This is the Four Nations. This is promotions, relegations. This is the last day, the last chance for one of these two teams to make it into the new and improved Division 1. My name is Trajan. I am thrilled to be back on the channel in 2025. It's been a hot minute, and I'm joined by Rob Loweth here on the desk for the games. Rob, how you feeling?
I'm really excited for today. Not only is this going to be the final game of promotions relegations, we get a new team in Div 1, either
Yes.
RIZE or 200 Bandits, but not just that, these teams have a history in Division 2 as well. So we get to see sort of the culmination of an entire split's worth of progress for both teams. Some good, some bad. I have to see which one comes out on top today.
Yeah, absolutely. On the upper side of the bracket last night, we did see Brodham Fens retain their spot in Division 1. So we have some returning names up there, but you're right, we do have some new blood coming in through the lower bracket here with the chance to qualify. And particularly for a team like RIZE that has been working at this rock face for a long time. They have had this goal of qualifying up. They haven't managed to make it work, but here they are now on this lower bracket run with some momentum behind them with a chance to finally conclude this journey that they've been on.
I mean, as you said, they've played since the open quals for the very first split that the UKL came back. They went to Div 2 then, and to be honest with you, they've never really been at that point where you go, okay, they can make it to Div 1. You know, you had teams, you had the Exeter Esports roster, you had the old Paragon roster, you had Verdant, you had Brodham Friends, and RIZE were never really there. And now they could be, which is it's great to see because these players also been going at it for quite a while. I know Xiaomei, Teddy in the Discord, he's been around for a while trying to get into the promotion, trying to get into Div 1. So it'd be great to see if he can step up today. Other players on that roster as well. Scooby Dooby Doo, he's pretty good. He's looking good as well. DDD, all these players on RIZE, Shmeon, Ryan Gosling, or Matt, I believe is how he wants to go by. They've looked pretty solid. They've had a miracle run, to be honest with you, coming up from 5th in the regular split all the way up to finals, taking I think it was Emirates in the finals to 5 games, and it was a really damn close series. And they're one more series away. But on the other side of the bracket, 200 Bandits, they look pretty damn good in regular season. They kind of dropped off a little bit in playoffs, but I wouldn't count them out today.
Yeah, that they are over the totality of the season, they maybe would look like a favorite here today. And also throughout the promo relegations, they have put up some very strong games. They're looking very well put together, especially with the addition of this new mid-jungle duo that's come in for this series that has energized them a bit, organized them a little bit to play around the strengths that they do have. You can see the bracket that we've seen through the promo relegations so far. Brodham Friends pretty cleanly sweeping their way through to qualification, not dropping a game. They took out 200 Bandits, but DMG was not so lucky. They fell down to the losers bracket and were not able to pick up a series win, leaving RIZE and the Bandits here competing for that second spot. So let's talk a little bit about RIZE first. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the history of them coming in here. It's been a long time coming for them. They were, like, you know, middle of the pack through the season, but they managed to turn it on in playoffs, and now here they are with another chance to qualify. This is a pretty strange team to watch play and to watch draft, right? They have quite a cohesive mission, but the picks are sometimes a little out there. And this is the Four Nations. The picks are often quite out there. But Rob, tell us a little bit about the RIZE drafts and what they bring to the table.
So at least what we saw in regular season, and then going into especially into playoffs, where to me they had a very fixed identity, and even in the promotion relegation tournament now, you often see it's tank top for Shmeon, weak sided. Occasionally plays Renekton, but most of the time it's Maokai. It's Maokai. And then in jungle, you have Ryan Gosling nearly always playing a carry. He has a great Gwen. He's played Kane a couple times, and he played Kane in an excellent, I believe, final game versus 200 Bandits in the lower bracket in Div 2. Has these kind of carry picks in his back pocket. Xiaomei, despite having a Yone, most of the time plays enablers. So Galio, I'd argue Ari in the way that they play is an enabler for him as well. Played obviously a Lux against Brodham Friends. Didn't look the best, but still, it's still there. And then DDD is a phenomenal ADC. Plays stuff like Jinx, Ezreal, and we saw him pick up 3 kills very early on in that second game versus Brodham Friends as well. It was like a 2 versus 3, and they kind of just sort of managed to take it to Spark and Zeta. If anyone who knows the UK scene, Spark's incredible. So the bot lane, DDD, Scooby Dooby Doo, both of them often Enchanters for Scooby-Dooby-Doo plays a Karma, plays a Milio, these things. They play this sort of very standard tank top, enable a mid, carry jungle, and then carry in bot lane with Enchanter support. It isn't necessarily always completely what you would expect. Like sometimes you wish they had a bit more engage, a little bit more engage. But it's worked so far for them to get them to this point. I can't take too much away. They're almost in Div 1.
They have an identity, and it's maybe like the original cohesive identity of a composition, which is tank front lines, carry back lines, and like tank top, maybe maybe an enchanter, maybe an engager support, and then damage in mid bot. Like it's a tried and tested formula, and at least they know what they're good at, right? And they try to play to that, which is commendable, and it does lead to kind of more victories than not. As we are into the draft right here, we'll talk about 200 Bandits as we go, because as we can see with the developing bans coming through right here, the Rengar's been banned away. Lunkafor is a Rengar player and a Viego player, and I've seen him play Rengar and I've seen him play Viego. He's quite good, right? So I don't think RIZE is interested in that anymore, which is fair enough. But the other influence we have to mention is the Lars of it all in the top lane. So there's a lot of targets that kind of need to be taken away for RIZE, and as we can see with the Lilia, you're not going to get all the targets in one go in that first rotation. There's going to be a power pick of some sort open for 200 Bandits.
And what I would point to here is usually all of us on the UK broadcast know who Lars is. We'd say Fiora. Watch out for Fiora. But he got beaten in the lower bracket. Shmion played Maokai. He took a tank top laner to Lars's Fiora and came out on top.
Spare the Lars Fiora, man. That champ's clearly too good.
So to me, I think this also, there's going to be confidence from RIZE Gaming coming in here that Shmion doesn't have to match in the sense of solo kill the guy, but he's going to be able to sit there and take whatever tank he wants into the guy top lane. He'll stonewall that lane and he'll become a teamfight menace. So. As you can kind of see here, they've not bothered with banning towards Lars because they've gone, you might be a great top laner, it might be good, but we've solved it already. We've not got a problem. As you see here, however, with the bans that have come through with a Ziggs ban, which is usually the counter dash, you see Ashe first pick, and I have to see what they want to answer here coming out with RIZE. They go with the Jinx.
Yeah, I mean, both Jaffa and DDD have made great use of the Ashe so far in this tournament series, and the Jinx has come on strongly as well. The Viego picked up by Ryan Gosling here, so we've banned the Rengar, we've picked away the Viego, so they've managed to have an obvious strategy in terms of trying to take some of the power out of 200 Bandits draft. We'll see what Lars is going to take. 200B obviously banning away the Gwen themselves. This is another power pick that could have been used by them in the top lane, so it's going to be something else for their top lane, and we'll see if it's still going to be the carries or if there's another stylistic change to be seen as the Wukong is locked in as the answer. So fairly standard, works with a bunch of stuff, and the Victor coming out for Galul. This is also a high priority pick, you know, we're still in arcade season, everybody, and the Victor's looking pretty darn hot right now.
Victor is still pretty damn good, and what's also snuck through the draft here is Shmion's Maokai. It is an absolute staple for that player. He will take it any matchup, doesn't care. He will stonewall it, and at the moment, tanks are ridiculously strong. Just to also mention quickly, as we're being told by production, this is not Galul in mid lane, despite what it says on the stream. It is Tralulu, who was their mid laner for most of the split for 200 Bandits. Still a great player. Often played like a Malzahar and things, but today we'll be playing the Victor. Just a quick update on that one. Obviously, we now see the bans. Camille, Fiora. Makes sense to start banning out Lars's tops. And the Braum ban, it's interesting to see that come down against Scooby-Doo because there's still quite a lot here available for the support role if they want to take it here, RIZE. They've still got Enchanted available. There's a Lulu, there's still a Milio that I know Scooby-Doo plays a great Milio, so I have to see where they want to go with that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost incentivizing him to play into his own natural style. We'll see if Scooby wants to take that option as it is left open. They've already got an excellent top-tier tank in that top lane for Shmion, and the Hui being locked in the mid lane. So a lot of range on the back line, a lot of decent kiting potential, a lot of good sniping. Like they've got a very solid front to back building right now, and Scooby kind of has the freedom to drop whatever he wants. You can have another bit of front on there if you need it, but you don't necessarily need it. You can also play to your strengths and go enchanters. Now for the Bandits, the Ashe was a big pick for them, but the other two picks have not felt as impactful. They've not necessarily been able to find the all-star power picks that maybe we've seen in the past. And we've gone for the Aurelia in the top lane here. Now, stylistically, love this for Lars, but in terms of pro players actually taking this champion, this does not happen very often. The Aurelia is not common at this stage.
It's hard to point. I was about to also mention Renata here is looking very. Think about this reset team comp from RIZE. I just want to quickly mention this Renata. It's a Scooby-Doo classic. He's probably going to take it. He's Milio or Renata here would make sense for him. I will quickly just state that because I think he's gone for it. Okay, he has gone for that for the reset team comp. Okay, the Aurelia. Interested to see Lars go for this with the Camille and the Fiora taken off the table. It is secretly quite good at the moment. I say secretly, if you look at if you're a statistics Andy here, you look at the Irelia stats and she's pretty strong. She's able to get, with tanks being meta, her being a Blade of the Ruin King user sort of makes her naturally better in these kind of metas. Interesting to see how he wants to play it into the Maokai, because he didn't have the greatest time of a Fiora into a Maokai, and I would argue that Irelia is not necessarily as good of a tank killer as Fiora is.
Yeah.
But very interesting to then go towards this with everything down, because you could have also looked for like an Olaf here, for example, right? Like, especially if you know if you're going to see like an Enchanter, Amelia, or Lulu, or as we saw the Renata come through, this Irelia now is going to have to find angles in these team fights, because you don't really want a front to back Rise game is called, right? If you don't want to be sprinting headlong into them, into Jinx way with a Renata roll on top, with the Maokai, and then you've got resets going off. One Viego reset for Ryan Gosling, who is also a Viego player. Viego will be a power pick in this series. I have to see if Rise can pull it off, because they've got this really reset heavy team comp standard Rise. This is Rise gaming right here. It's literally to the core. And then on the other side, 200 Bandits, they've got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? They've got team fight with the Victor, with the Wukong. They've got Rel engage. But then the Irelia, that's a side laner. And the mistake I saw 200 Bandits making in that series they last played against Rise was that, despite Lars having great macro, knowing where to be, pulling members around, able to side lane, get huge gold leads, he had died like 8 times on Fiora and was still up in gold in the matchup. It was ridiculous. He had the other core of 4 looked a little bit lost when it came to actually approaching objectives. They weren't taking these fights cleanly. They were sending members one at a time, or they were fighting for objectives that when you're a split push, you're saying, don't go in, you're going to lose us the game. So it's interesting to see 200 Bandits kind of going to this style that they lost against Rise with last time. Maybe they feel, with the changes in jungle, maybe they feel they can overcome that hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the original Lars Verzik esports era, where Lars purely being good enough at knowing when to push, when to back off, when to pull focus, and when to not, could drag that roster through heinous games.
It got them to playoffs.
Come out. Exactly, it got them to playoffs, and they were the kind of the dark horse there, and Lars was the head of that horse. But they were also suffering in the 4v5s, but they were able to suffer slowly enough and hold on just long enough for it to be net positive across the map. And that seems to be an equation that 200 Bandits has not quite managed to balance yet. And then maybe they now feel confident on this. Maybe Lars is going to shift and try to use the Irelia as a team fight backline threat, which it can be, like you say, if you're tricky with the angles. But it's utilizing Lars in that way. It feels like I just, my monkey neurons want to see him go to a side lane and 1v3, because that's what gives me the dopamine rush. But it's up to them on how they want to approach this, because you say it didn't work before. This did not work against Rise, and Rise have not switched it up. They're being stone cold classic Rise. So we'll see what the answer for 200 Bandits is. Before we go to a quick break, in time for the game to pop up, who are you favoring in this first game of the series?
So I did have 200 Bandits winning this series 2-0, because I thought Lunkova coming in jungle looked like a big upgrade to me from what I saw them in the lower bracket. I will still go 200 Bandits because of the fact that I think it is an upgrade. I think the Rise have a better team composition. It's like, this is really bad analysis, because I really favor 200 Bandits because of the players that I see on the champions I see. But I would, nameplates off, I'd prefer to play Rise comp to most of them, to generally to the degree that you'd expect. I'm going to favour 200 Bandits because of the style that they put forward. I also think the champs that they've picked enable them not to make the same mistakes that they were making in that lower bracket. Victor's very, very good at sort of slowing fights down compared to what they were playing before.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we are going to have a close game 1 on our hands. Like I say, the draft has gone into the pockets just a little bit for 200 Bandits out the gate, but that's what you love to see. And I have to have faith in Lars. Having talked him up so heavily already, I'm going to put my faith in him and see and say that 200 Bandits can take this first game. But we'll see what Rise has as an answer to that. For now, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back in just a few minutes with game number 1 kicking off.
the follow, we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkest skies, the champions of the world that we defy. I saw the ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last light.
Welcome back, everybody, and we are straight into the action. Game 1 of this best of 3 for the last UKL4 Nations Division 1 slot. 200 Bandits on the blue side, RIZE Esports on the red, and we have some intriguing elements thrown into the mix right here, particularly from the Bandit side. Now, Rob, how early are we expecting the intrigue to start? Are we expecting the early lanes to have any particular action? Are we expecting the junglers to get involved, or is this going to be more of a mid-game spike in Bloodbath?
So there's one aspect here we can talk about what should be happening, and also how the teams want to play. RIZE, they don't necessarily always go for these skirmishes early on. They often like to sit back and scale with DDD, right? So you often see Ryan Gosling covering lanes, maybe looking for an aggressive play if a mistake is made. I'd assume in this game, look for RIZE simply to be going, we feel we've got the stronger teamfight comp, sitting back and then taking the fights as they see them to be advantageous for them. On the other side, 200 Bandits, they have a composition that I would argue later does struggle in these team fights, right? You're going to have like the Jinx Viego resets. You're going to have the Maokai on top of that, as well as the Renata resets as well. So 200 Bandits, they should be looking for plays early. Lunkafer in jungle is going to have to make a few things happen. I would like him to sort of visit top lane here. I'd like to see him get a lead for Lars, because obviously we've discussed it till we've sort of beaten that horse a bit too much. He's a player that, you put the effort into, he brings up a lot of great results side laning. And I think putting that time into him, if you are the jungler of 200 Bandits, is going to come up massive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an investment that often pays back the dividends as Ryan Gosling clears towards the top side. Barbarian Prince there, heading towards the bot side. And we'll see if either of these want to make any early maneuvers, or if we'll have to wait a little bit for the kills to start breaking out. Now, the bot lane is interesting to me as well, because this was the priority for 200 Bandits. They wanted the Ashe, they first picked it, and we have seen a lot of 2v2 action off the back of this Ashe, as we see the engage from the rail already. The Ignite's coming down. Scooby stepping a bit too far up and has to flash away. Just as I say it, it immediately comes through, but Lars wants the attention back on the top lane, and it's first blood for the Aurelia. It's a trade back, but the kill is there, and the crash isn't quite going to make it in time.
That is the most Lars moment of all time. Yep. If there's ever a play to sort of symbolize this top laner, it's that one. On the other side, Scooby-Doo sort of disrespecting Ashe level 1. This champion is so strong in these early levels, stepping up a bit too far into level 1 Ashe and Rel and having to burn his flash. Not what you want to see in a bot lane where you do want to sit back and sail, because right now the wave is pushing into 200 Bandits. They're going to have to be a bit careful. Shabion's also he's just died a 1v1. He's taken a lot of damage. Look at the damage already coming down, Trajan. It's so difficult for this Maokai to take any trades early.
Half his HP gone. A lot of the minions stepping up to do the work right there. Both top laners lost their flashes early on as well, and it's a tier on the first bite for Shmion, so no combat stats really, just abilities to try and farm, and Lars has this lane, has the run of it right now, and can start to extend that gold lead up in the top side even further. Went for the cull, knows that this is a lane, or I guess a lane that he feels comfortable, not necessarily investing in power now, and is ready to spike later on as another stun comes through from the rail. This time it's DDD under pressure, has the summoners, holds them to the very end, but it's already gone down into the bailout. There's no chance of the resurrection. It is instead going to be the trade back as Ryan Gosling's there to clean it up. But this RIZE bot lane, Rob, they are a little disrespectful this evening.
Yeah, they're not showing the same sort of level I've seen out of them in the past. Not respecting Ash strength in these early levels, not respecting the rel engage. They felt they had cover there coming out from Ryan Gosling. We saw him show a little bit around the jungle. No, ends up walking back up river, and that means that Jaffa and Never Give Up, who didn't know. They didn't know that the Viego was there. Just plays aggressive, gets that kill. Obviously a 1-for-1 trade, but you're going to take that pretty much any day of the week in this kind of lane where getting Ash those kills will mean you can play even more aggressive into the Jinx and the Renata. It's just not looking necessarily like their heads in the game yet. Rises bot lane.
A little cold, potentially. Needs a little bit of a warm-up for the bot lane as Viego now trying to see if he can sort out this top lane. Shmion has actually been taking some decent trades using his own W to dodge the stun from Lars, and has the wave crashing in a position where he can maybe try and pick most of it up, and has Ryan Gosling in the back pocket if things get hairy. So we are seeing that tank proficiency from Shmion. It's not getting steamrolled as bot lane again, getting very fighty. The rel crash down. This time does not connect, has to sidestep around the chompers, and DDD is able to fire back, finally able to leverage this Jinx a little bit.
And that at least is a good trade coming out for RIZE bot lane. Maybe they can get their hand in the game. Maybe they're a little bit nervous. It is their last chance, right? We were saying it's been a long time coming for RIZE. Long time coming for some of these players. They've been in the UK EL Div 2 for a very, very long time. They are at least seeming to stabilize a little bit in that bot lane. The CS is even, but there's another engage coming in from Never Give Up.
This bot lane just cannot wait to get stuck in, but DDD is the one with the item advantage, and you can see it's just not a fair fight down there. Jaff with no summoners, the final rocket does the deed, as DDD will be traded by Kenny not to make this unfair, and both supports are left bad and bruised with no more fight in them.
It's just constant fighting. It's like as soon as any tiny mistake is made, both supports are willing to just walk forward and punish that mistake. DDD there, getting that kill is very, very important. Getting any gold into this Jinx when you're playing this reset comp, massive, massive value. What we also saw on the other side, obviously, is you're just seeing this sort of top lane which was going in favor of Lars. Now sort of, yes, he's ahead, but this is Shmion's wheelhouse. He absolutely adores playing on weak side, not getting that attention, just playing these sort of scaling tanks who have those cheaper items. So he's feeling pretty good as well going towards that unending despair. We see the objective trade, pretty standard, nothing particularly spicy coming out there. Getting a Chemtech Dragon early, not that important for RIZE really, but the grubs for the side 200 bandits, this means that RIZE now need to contest the next scrubs, because do you want to give Irelia 6 scrubs?
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Puts a little bit of a sting in the split pushing tail of 200 bandits there. Lars with 6 scrubs is certainly a force to be reckoned with. Still really trying to find any possible fight that he can into Shmion, who is happy to take that health deficit, secure the wave back in front of the tower, and is falling down the CS less as the Ash Arrow lands. Now the stun cannot miss onto Scooby, but top lane are back in there. Ooh. And Viego has arrived in time to save it in bot lane. No such luck. Jaffa will take it down. The Ash Arrow engage gets them another kill, and finally it is not an even trade down in bot lane. The bandits start to pull ahead.
Yeah, and this is also just the strength of getting that level 6 on Ash first, right? Be able to make that engage. And they're going to go for this dive here. DDD's dead.
We're going to coming around. There's no way they can't sew this one up. They've managed to juggle the aggro. Wukong will finish the job with the long staff there. Maybe we're trying to leave it a little longer, but they'll get the job over the line with the plates to boot as well. So the Bandits now firmly in control of this bot side, and RIZE on the other side managed to hold off top lane. A second kill for Ryan Gosling on the Viego. You mentioned he is a proficient Viego in his own right and has a little bit of investment, a little bit of money in this early game to become a threat later on.
I just want to shout out here that RIZE are trying to match the pace at which 200 Bandits generally like to play. Sometimes you see these team fighting teams, they sit back, kind of concede a bit too much, and it becomes one of these things you have to make a miracle play. We are at least seeing RIZE match them. There's a play happening on the bot side, they're able to answer on the top side, and vice versa. However, everything right now, I'd really favour 200 Bandits in the fact that this side lane, this top lane, he hasn't got Blade the Ruin King yet, and we all know what Irelia's like with Blade the Ruin King. Yes, he might have already fallen in that fight, in that gank. It is going to get harder for Shmion as this goes on in the side lane. So the fact that they've picked up these grubs 200 Bandits, yes, they may have had a death in top, doesn't really matter, because their bot side is also winning. So they're winning on the side that they're not really having to put too much power into that much. Really, Ashe is pretty self-sufficient as Ryan Gosling. Very close to being caught out. In fact, is being caught out, has to flash.
Yeah, the Ashe Hour cancelling the back and the Victor stun to force the summoner. Viego not going to lose a little bit of time on the map right there. 200 Bandits now identifying this bot lane is a powerful lane they can play through. They can use this as the spearhead to come forward as top lane. Of course, we see Lars looking for the fights. That's all he's been doing all the way through the first 9 minutes. Finds the stun, dashes forward again. Shmion will simply root, but the ult has been committed by both sides. Can he get back to the tower? The flash is there for Lars, but he holds it for now. He just has the health lead.
And you just see a trail. Oh my god, look at the damage from that Victor. This champion, Victor from Arcane, insane damage. Able to force out Xiaomei there in the lane. Does actually walk back. Has to be a little bit careful. You know, there's still some damage from this Victor. Has flash available to maybe look for a kill here, Tralulu. But in the end, sort of just pushes him back, gets that push a bit. Xiaomei is being so heavily zoned here. Look at this. It's so hard for him to step up. He should just recall. He can't really just sit and wait for this wave to push into him. It's going to take far too long.
It seemed like the mid lane was a pretty chilled out farm fest for most of it, but over the last few minutes, Trololu has managed to pull ahead, has managed to get a notable CS advantage, and is now leveraging the fights in their own favor and opening up a lead of their own. So neither team has been focusing on this mid lane at all, but it's another area where the Bandits are developing leads coming into this mid game. Over 2,000 gold is the lead that they have. Ooh. And they've got decent team fighting champions, as we mentioned, the Wukong, the Rel, the Aurelia, the Victor. They love to get stuck in around an objective.
And just here, watch this Grubs fight. You're already seeing, look what RIZE are doing. They're rotating Jinx up. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, he's here as well on that Renata. They don't want to give these over. They're looking for a play on Tralulu. This might be too late, though. Look at the Grubs. They're already going to get one of them. That's going to be at least one lot of Grubbies being spawned.
They're going to find the one right now, and they're going to back away, but will they be allowed to? Viego leading the charge into the pit. Lars cancels the recall, starts it again. Isn't sure what the call is right now. 200 Bandits are seeding the ground. They've gotten the most important four, and they feel like maybe there's no point flipping the game at this point. No point giving money over to the Jinx, getting play back in the game. Just walk away with the guaranteed value that you have. And RIZE will be able to secure something for their trouble. The Dragon coming up in 12 seconds. The Mountain to follow up as well, as Lars managed to catch DDD slipping and gets a flash for his trouble.
That is that's the fear whenever you put your ADC up against the top laner, but Shmion, he's having a great time in this.
I say tank, but it's all armor, buddy, and that's a Victor dropping down the Chaos Storm with the Ashe to back them up. So a clean dive kill on Shmion, and the answer from RIZE again, slightly behind the pace here. Nothing for Scooby to find, and 200 Bandits walk away with a 6th kill. They've got the Wukong coming in as well. They want to find another angle here. They're onto the Hui, the famously immobile Hui, flashes over the wall, but Trolulu's round the corner, and the Wukong picks up the credit. Ryan Gosling forced into full retreat. Scooby can only watch as this bot lane is going from bad to worse.
And right now, RIZE, who were matching 200 Bandits rather, they were able to try and make stuff happen around the map, are now answering late every single time. Shmion falls. They have 3 members left, but already 200 Bandits bring a 4th member. Then the fight goes down. They lose another member. DDD is just destroyed. That's a Trinity Force Wukong.
Excuse me?
That's insane. You losing your ADC in that scenario. 1 and 4 on the Jinx. It's not a great look. And now they're trying to take Dragon here. But they're already being collapsed on by 4 members. This is like a complete collapse by RIZE.
It's spiraling a little bit out of control. At the very least, they will escape with their lives, I said, before seeing if that was actually the case.
Yeah.
Jaffa, though, maybe pushes his own luck a little bit too far. The Renata ult comes through, only catches Rel, no kills on the counter, and Dragon secured for the Bandits. Again, it looked like it was going to get even hairier, but finally, it is just the objective picked up. But the Bandits have stopped any hope of Dragon stacking, as Lars still looking for aggressive angles onto Shmion. Has the Blade of the Ruined King done now, and will be working through that health bar a little bit quicker, as you can see as the autos come down.
And he doesn't, even with that Chain Vest and the health of the Ruby Crystal, that's nowhere near enough to survive the Aurelia with Blade of the Ruined King, right? She's just too strong on that 1-item spike. Has the Cull obviously finished as well, so she's just in an absolutely amazing position up in this top lane. And I was praising RIZE, and they just seem to have just collapsed. They don't really know where they want to go from here, because they've kind of used this Tifa ult, and there's a kill in the top lane. It is traded. It's traded.
Yeah,
That's a positive. Ryan Gosling has some kills. There's a chance here for RIZE to be able to come through this big game with a fed Viego. But yeah, this is not looking good for RIZE, I would say. It seems to be they're a little bit out of sorts in this game.
Yeah, I mean, right from the get-go, that's as we identified, they just looked a little bit out of sorts, a little bit cold, not really ready, not quite warmed up, and this is shown right here. They're just a little bit behind the pace. They're not reacting quite as we need them to, as 200 Bandits are demanding that they do if they want a chance to stay on pace, as they are now very, very much behind. I was excited by the 2k lead a few minutes ago, Rob. It's now 6k at the 14-minute mark as the plates fall away. This should now be the Bandits in a position to push through their leads. They've got aggressive playmaking tools. They've got champions that can dive forward. They've got gold in the right places. They should be able to sew this one up without too much trouble. But for RIZE, if they can turtle up, if they can find a good team fight, maybe find an overreach of the 200 Bandits, they've got that Renata ult, they've got the resets comp. There's a crack in the door. There's a way back in, but they've got to maybe wait for the 200 Bandits mistake.
And honestly, they might have to slow this game down, right? They've managed to pick up that first dragon, so they aren't at threat of being sold at 23 minutes, 24 minutes. They still have a little bit of leeway there if they are able to keep the map state okay. It's not looking like 200 Bandits are allowing that. Look at top lane turret already falling. Shmion's trying to defend this. Scooby-Dooby-Doo might be here, but it's not really possible. And in bot lane, the Victor damage is crazy.
The Hui ultimate slow is useful, but the laser is enough. Manages to stride after the Hui. Picks up the 1v1 kill. We see in top lane that tower did fall, and there was no threat onto Lars at the end of it. As Jaffa happily soaks up that farm in the mid lane. 200 Bandits a step ahead once again across the map, opening up those side lane turrets. Only one outer left, and pretty much all of their structures are looking absolutely fine. No real risk there.
Oh.
Yeah, gets a free cleanse. Runs around the corner, gets the handshake, and the Viego comes through with money in the pocket, looking for the reset. Both the carries will go down, but the Renata manages to survive on the Jinx just for now. Wukong has to slip away, and now more bodies piling into the mid lane, and it's RIZE coming out ahead. This time they were ready for the counter punch, and 200 Bandits overstep.
And I think this is going to have to be a bit of a Ryan Gosling masterclass to get them through this big game, and it's appearing like it might be possible. Picks up the 2 kills in that fight. They're actually now finding an answer back here. They get a few objective bounties, but the Wukong is pushing bot lane, so the pace is still being kept up here by 200 Bandits.
Ooh, the Herald comes up as well.
Oh, he's out of there.
Wukong now trying to drive his way to safety. Not much health left on the Herald, but it's enough to get this Wukong right out of dodge with the tower still secure. So 200 Bandits not letting up, not dismayed by that mid lane play whatsoever. As RIZE maybe looking to sneak a catch on him if he thinks he's safe, but he gets caught up, has to go into the clone, but Ryan Gosling's around the corner. Now there's a tower that needs diving. Viego does not have the ultimate. They really, really want this one. Flashes in, misses the stun, but there's still enough range on the Hui to get it over the line. There's the blast cone. Doesn't get the full range, dodges it with the clone, but Hui will find the shutdown at the end of it all. It's a much needed goal for the mid laner, but on the other side, Scooby's been caught up, and the 200 Bandits make it still a 1-for-1.
Where is Scooby-Dooby-Doo going? He seems to not... you are very far behind. You managed to make a play happen. You get the pick onto the Wukong. That's a shutdown into the back pocket. This time of the way, that's where you need the goal going. You can't have it all going onto Viego. And immediately, they get the answer back as, well, Ryan Gosling's just going again. He's just going to have to keep going and going and going. I think he just wants to drag his team to the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to keep the pace high, but there's enough disengage there. The Rel, the Ash slows with the volleys, the Victor as well. There's plenty of disengage tools that you flagged up, Rob, when we were talking about the draft, that even when 200 Bandits do have some threat coming their way, yes, they can dive and go aggressive, but they've got tools to stall plays out themselves if they don't like them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can the Wukong Cyclone, the Victor Field, all of these can be used defensively to get out of dodge. So it's going to be a lot getting harder and harder here for RIZE to start making these plays. As you suddenly see, the gold being spent by 200 Bandits as they get it off of the map. You've got a lot of item completions, obviously, have already come through. I want to just highlight the Hullbreaker on the Irelia as well. She's obviously looking to side lane. However, obviously, Hullbreaker, not a pure side laning item. We're seeing a lot of different champions picking that item up at the moment. This Dragon going over is not great for RIZE, but they're going to have to concede it, right? They don't really have the map state to really fight it. And Akuven, Lars, he's just walking at them 1v2.
Yeah, and they are giving them the space. They know there's no point committing. They're not going to get the kill at the end of it, and they're just losing time getting drawn into the Lars Vortex in that top. So as you say, he's got the Hullbreaker done. He's got more deaths than kills, but has absolutely still been commanding in that lane. Massive CS differential built up for Lars on the Aurelia over the Shmi on Maokai, and is now able to be that side lane threat. And it seems like if 200 Bandits still want to opt for this strategy, which I still think is the best way to use this top laner that they have, if they can manage to make it work, this time with a more consistent 4-stack core across the other side of the map, which has been performing very well in their own right, this is maybe a formula that 200 Bandits can finally find some real success on, can qualify into Div 1, and can maybe make some waves there.
Yeah, and I just want to bring up the fact that when we saw them last, they were struggling, as you're saying, that 4-man core was struggling in these fights. They've got the leads, so now they aren't going to be struggling, right? They're not in that situation where they're behind in goal and they're trying to still make the fights happen. They are going to be ahead. They are going to be able to make this stuff, and not just because they're champions, but also, well, Trelulu's got to be a bit careful here. I don't imagine he should be under too much threat from the Viego, but still, it's possible.
The edge of the stun required. Uses the ultimate to push the Viego back away. Jaffa now spots a Renata, trying to do some assistance, trying to do some dirty work, and that's the flash away as Jaffa is indomitable, chasing them down. Ryan Gosling able to slip away on the other side as Lars has found himself a Maokai.
Oh, no.
And from downtown, the Ash Arrow onto the Jinx, gets a summoner out of the RIZE bot laner. And again, it's multiple plays, it's chaos across the map. There's always more than one place you need to be looking, Rob, but 200 Bandits, they're coming out ahead across the board.
And this is not so much a hands difference, it's just the willingness of 200 Bandits to fight you at every single turn, right? There's a lot of teams that were sitting there going, we've got the lead, let's assign our side lane, let's play a 1-3-1, let's play a 1-4. Not 200 Bandits. They just brawl, and they're going for this Baron. There's going to have to be a steal coming through, because I think with this Baron going over, RIZE they're on the deathbed.
Yeah, and they're absolutely ready to jump out of the pit. The mobility is there. Shwame with no chance to get away. Viego has been the one shining light so far, but stunned up outside of the pit. Drops the ultimate just to get some damage. The Baron secured by the Bandits.
Oh, no.
As the fight continues. They pile over the wall to try and extend this victory, to try and push through for it could be a very swift Game 1 win in this all-important best of 3. The Bandits have been unstoppable so far today. Now they've got the Baron before the 21-minute mark.
And I just want to point out there the disaster that comes through the Viego. Had the Renata bailout, but the kill on Lars came down just a bit too early. Yeah. He could have got the reset. He could have been able to maybe try and look for a snowball in that fight. Doesn't come through. Baron going over. And these are the gasps of life coming out of RIZE there. That's it. They're going to have to try and make something miraculous happen. They've done a lot of miracles in this run so far. In Game 1 of their very last series, for a chance to get to Div 1, they're going to have to make a miracle happen again, right? It's not looking great in this first game.
Yeah, they will have to turn their eyes up to the heavens and ask for just one more, please. Just one more to get us over the line, because Game 1 is not looking hot. We were favoring 200 Bandits coming into this one. Just, nameplates on, we would favor 200 Bandits, despite how much we liked the comp that RIZE has put together. And that seems to have held up so far. The individual outplays have been thick and fast. They have been plentiful from the Bandits on this Sunday evening. as now all they have to do is manage a Baron push with one inhib already exposed. Not necessarily the most difficult of tasks in the League of Legends game, but we'll see. You know, people have messed it up. People have still gotten too confident. People have managed to hand those miracles over to their opponents in the past. Let's see what the Bandits can do with it. As now the fight breaks out already. Don't even bother with the push. Just get stuck in. Just go for blood. Go for kills. Go for scalps. And the Bandits are finding all of them. It's a massacre between the two towers. Double kills abound. The Bandits secure the ace. None dead on their side. The Baron is live. The Grubbies are there. And they are going to easily stroll down the mid lane to sew up game number 1.
What a game. Well, what a statement game coming out from 200 Bandits. They didn't look great versus Braun and Friends. They didn't look great in the lower bracket. May have beaten DMG, but today they have shown up absolutely massive in this first game, Trajan. Incredible statement from them saying, yeah, you may have beaten us in those playoffs. You may have shown that you can play this teamfight style, but we've just come in today. A few changes in the picks.
Yep.
But it just seems to just run over. I mean, look at the Victor giving that over. I just want to say, look at the size of the storm at the end. This champion, you can't be giving this over in the current meta. This champion is absolutely disgusting. Combine it with a Rel, combine it with stuff like the Wukong. It's just too much for RIZE. It's too much for RIZE in game 1.
Yeah, what better way for the Bandits to close out that first game with the best fight they've had all game. The perfect 5-for-0, the maximum stacked victor all over the rail, pulling everyone in. It was beautiful, I'll be honest. 200 Bandits put a lovely stamp on that first game. 23 minutes on the clock and 1 win away from the UKL First Division. RIZE, they came in with their usual, their usual attire, their usual style on display, and we liked the draft they put together. But it just happened on the Rift. It did not happen in the draft today. It really seemed like it happened on the Rift in that game number 1. And we'll see if there is an adjustment to be made, right? Or if it's just we just played that game kind of bad. There's an argument for them to just go, yeah, we kind of just fluffed a lot of our lanes here unnecessarily. We took some fights we didn't have to. We got caught where we didn't have to. And maybe if we're not losing control of the pace, they'd have had a much better chance to come back and take that first game themselves.
Yeah. I think that I don't think they'll make too many adjustments. I think they've got a style that's got them here, and they'll probably be comfortable doing that. However, there's a lot of pointers to be taken away from this game, right? The brawling in the bot lane that was training 1-for-1, and suddenly it's all in favor of 200 Bandits. And that's the nature of Ashe, really. She hits 6 first, lands the Ashe arrow, you can't do much. Then when you're on the other side, yes, you put time into trying to shut Lars down. Ryan Gosling went there a couple times. It was more damage mitigation than it was really trying to make a play. That Aurelia is always going to have a time on the side lane once she gets played the Rune King into the Maokai. And maybe it's just reassessing your game plans. Go, okay, DDD is our main carry threat on this team. Yeah. Let's put as much time as we can into him. Ryan Gosling is great at carrying, but he needs to get that Jinx online. A few stylistic changes. Maybe not the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what the answer is going to be for RIZE, because they've got one more chance to keep this miracle run going. But for now, we're going to go to a short break. Game 2 will be back before you know it. We'll see if it's going to be another 2-0 for the 200 Bandits, or if RIZE are going to push us to Game 3. We'll see you in a few.
heads up high and beat the drum to what we love. Risk the fall, oh, we have felt it all come crashing down from far above. Stars are rising, countless worlds colliding, only one will take it all. Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we make the final call? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies. The champions of the world that we defy. A solo ride of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last times.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Four Nations final promotion relegation match where 200 Bandits have taken a one-game lead over RIZE Esports in very commanding fashion, dominating fashion, I dare say. 23 minutes on the board and the victory was secured. Now, before we went away, we were trying to think about we're trying to kind of anticipate what RIZE are going to do here, whether they're going to switch it up, whether there's going to be a stylistic change, whether there's going to be a draft change. And ultimately, I think we've landed where we're not expecting them to rewrite history, to reinvent the wheel at this juncture. It's not a good time to do it when you're 1-0 down in the last game of the season, essentially, is to try and reinvent the wheel. But what about for 200 Bandits, right? Because we hadn't seen the Aurelia before. We already saw something new from them. We saw the Victor come through. We saw the Ashe priority. Do you think there's going to be any need or any option to change here for 200 Bandits? Is there any need for them to try anything new, or is it really just to see what the answer from RIZE is first? Because RIZE have selected red side here, so they are not going to be taking the first pick.
Yeah, I was going to say that the sides have remained the same. And so what we saw coming out banned from RIZE last time opened up pretty much everything that 200 Bandits wanted, right? Jaffa has played an awful lot of Ashe, and banning out the Ziggs, which is also a Jaffa pick, I should mention. It wasn't just some sort of throwaway ban. Means that Ashe doesn't really have the answer, and this champion is incredibly strong at the moment. Yes, we can go on Twitter and see complaints about ADCs not killing tanks, have 5,000 HP. But early on in lane, Ashe is still an absolute monster. She basically has 20% more AD than everyone else, or 15% more because of her passive. It's really, really insane. So she's such a strong laner. That plays very well into what 200 Bandits want to be doing, which is sort of getting these early leads and then letting Lars play side and playing like a 4-1. Wherever the 4 goes, Lars is the other side. They probably won't divert too much away from it. I don't think that you're going to see... I think you'll probably see RIZE change some of the bans. I imagine they might leave like a Ziggs open, possibly. I would imagine they're going to get rid of Victor. They got rid of Rengar and they took away the Viego, and then he just went to a Wukong and looked absolutely fine on that Lunkenfus. So I don't imagine that. I don't think they should let the guy have Rengar, but it might honestly be an angle. It's the final hour. Like maybe you sit there and go, can we figure out some kind of composition that makes Rengar's life absolutely hell to play? That's a possibility for RIZE. Obviously not changing up what you're doing. Maybe you go, okay, well the ADC we take is Xayah. Suddenly she can't be killed by Rengar jumping on her, or whatever it may be. I think 200 Bandits' change is going to be, well, our Victor's banned, so what other mid lane mage do we have? Tralulu, who's he plays a Malzahar, plays a Ziggs himself, I believe, has a few different champions up in his back pocket that he could bring out. I just think that they've shown that if they can play the way they want to play and get the leads they want to get in the roles that they got them in Div 2, they kind of just close out games. So RIZE, I think, have to come out and go, okay, let's not make mistakes we made in bot lane. I think it's very much on RIZE to really change up the bans and then how they play within the game. Because they're not going to change the Maokai pick. They're not going to change the Jinx. So they might go for Ezreal, but they're not going to change the Enchanter picks for Scooby-Doo. They're going to have to very much go, okay, can we navigate around this champ select? Can we say, okay, let's get rid of this Victor so now we have an easier way of punishing the 4 or something like this. Other than that, it could be a similar story to Game 1.
Yeah, we've got into the draft right here, so we're going to see the Rengar ban has remained. I always think it's... Because Rengar isn't like an evergreen jungle pick, because it's so specific and it has these flaws that can be exploited. But, so do we simply build the anti-Rengar comp, or do we lose to giving the Rengar one-trick the Rengar, right? There's two sides to every debate at that point, and we've seen the Rengar work well for them, but it feels like RIZE would be good at just, drafting tanks, and as you say, drafting defensible AD carries and peeling back and having enchanters like a Lulu or something that can defend it, and it's there's arguments to both sides, and it's really just how the players feel, how the coach feels, and how they want to approach this one. They've decided to leave the Rengar by the wayside. We'll see if they're going to change anything else, because changing nothing does seem like a bold maneuver, and that we're just asking everybody to play 20% better from game 1 to game 2, which is a thing that's happened in the past, but like it's a bold move, I will say this, to not change a thing.
If you can identify and go, okay, well, here are the 2 pressure points. These are the 2 mistakes that we've really made that we never usually make, and that's what meant that we didn't get into late game. That's fine, but I don't think that was really the case in this game. I think, for example, there was a few picks around mid lane that happened that shouldn't happen. You could point to that, but then they just collapsed, and you can't let that happen. Like, you can't sit there and go, let's just not walk in and die in jungle. Like it's a bit of a poor sort of analytical point to make, because it's like, well, just play better.
Yeah.
Forehead.
Yeah,
I was thinking, I think
a review on this, I think, guys.
we'll have to see. I think draft law at the moment it is a bit buggy at the moment. We'll have to see
Yeah.
if it's
It'll catch
updated.
up.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, so the bans for RIZE were identical. So it was the bold strategy. Bandits back to the Ashe on the first. The answer was instead to steal the Victor instead of the Viego. They've also taken the Wukong for themselves and a Jhin as the answer for DDD. And now the Xerath.
That's a mid Xerath, I'm pretty sure.
And I'm pretty confident that is as well from the history of Trolulu and into the Victor. I think it's a pretty good idea. I think it's nice. I like Xerath into the ranges, into the majors.
In the green room, I was sort of thinking about. I wasn't the biggest fan of the way last game, purely because I felt like against the comp that you saw coming out of 200 Bandits, it was very hard to play. The way you had a Wukong on top, you had a Rel on top, you had an Irelia, you had Victor, which does a even lane, and then an Ashe Arrow that you couldn't deal with. And I was sat there looking, okay, what champions could there? I thought, well, Kali, Syndra, and Xerath did come up. I thought a bit too immobile. But on the having it on the side of sort of Bandits versus the Victor, when you've also got the Ashe on your side, gives you an awful lot of long range here. Yeah. I wonder what they're going to round it out with, because I would prefer to see a tank in the top lane. I wouldn't really want to see like a sort of triple carry. Like, imagine there's another carry that comes out from Trinidad. It's carry central. How the hell do you have to just hand sniff them in lane? I think you need a little bit more cohesion in your top lane here. We do see end up the Gragas. These bans against Lars. I'll be honest, I'd be kind of shocked if he would bring out... Can you imagine putting a Fiora with this comp? I feel like it would be, again, very solo queue.
With the Xerath and the... It would just be like, you had a good Fiora game, let's just have another one of those kind of thing. So that they banned the Maokai away, 200 Bandit side as well, which I think is fine. I think Shmion's Maokai is certainly very good. And for a large part of that game, they were dealing with the Fiora decently in lane. They were using it to farm up Ryan Gosling on the Viego. So I think their answer was fine there. And the Ornn is the answer. Now, it is blind into top lane against Lars, which is always a risk, is blinding against Lars, because you just don't know what's going to come out of this player. And we'll see what the answer is going to be. We'll wait until that's confirmed, if it is going to be confirmed. The Viego coming in for Lunkafer as well is big comfort for him. And now the Mundo into top side. We've seen Jungle Mundo from Rigged, I believe, earlier in this promo relegations, and a couple times before that in the season. But how do you feel about the top lane Mundo for Lars into the Ornn?
Personally, I quite like Ornn into Mundo. However, there is a big thing here that this Mundo does. You've got a Jhin. It's Jhin versus a tank. So in the grand scheme of these fights where you've got this long range poke, you have Mundo who's going where he pleases, and he walks at Jhin, and then Jhin screams at his team
has to walk away.
Help me, save me. Gets heart sealed a one shot. And it's something that we didn't really get able to pick up on, because it was the draft obviously loaded so quickly, is that a Jhin pick this early on, giving over the Viego, is a lot, not confidence, but that's like, well, my Jinx and Ezreal are banned. I guess I'll have to go down the tier list. There's no Ashe. I'll go into what I think is good into her. But Jhin doesn't necessarily have the best time into the Ashe lane. You know, he can play okay early, but then when he gets 6 versus 6, she can cancel his ultimate. You've taken the Karma here as a sort of, we're going to punish lane Karma as a natural sort of, every lane she goes into, she naturally pushes, she naturally makes, that makes it strong, strong side, able to actually push in. I don't think it's enough to really save this, where the Mundo, I'm really worried. I see a Mundo lock in, and I see a Jhin, and I see the rest of it. I'm like, how are you killing him? How you killing him right now? Victor's going to have to get the Leandri. She's going to have to go not a one-shot build, which goes against what you want for the other sort of carrying members on the side of 200 Bandits.
Yeah, and I think, while I do think the Jhin and the Karma can be, they can bully a Rel lane, like just kind of naturally. Despite the fact that, as in the lane at least before 6, and if we're like playing around the ultimates well, you take cleanse on the Jhin, you'll probably be alright post 6 into the Ashe. But last time we had the Renata into Rel, and we thought, okay, cool, enchanted for Scooby, they're going to do some bullying here, and it was just a bit of mispositioning, a bit of errors out, a bit of unforced errors out of the bot lane that ended up giving over those kills and turning it into such a messy bot lane that it did not need to be. So we need to see Scooby and DDD tidy that bot lane up, and they can actually try to use the advantage here, or what advantage they can build into this Ashe, when we know Jaffa's Ashe is pretty solid. So we're going to need to see them step up, and then maybe they can make some sort of leverage there. Yeah, the Mundo into the Ornn, at the very least, we're maybe expecting the Ornn to have a decent time. Shmion, being a solid tank aficionado, might actually be able to get through this Lars lane looking pretty clean, if that matchup plays out. And then it's the mid lane, which is, again, it's range poking and farming, similar to last time, but without a lot of jungle intention. I'm not expecting too much action here, so this could be a bit less of a mess than the first game. If RIZE can keep cool heads, which I think is what they need to do, right? Less of a mess. Let's get to the team fight, then let's try and leverage what we have. But we're now less happy with the draft than we were in game 1. So
it's like I think
yeah.
like when I sequence it, it makes sense. Like you get when you see the Xerath, you need reach onto the Xerath. You take the Ornn, the Maokai goes by the way. So I prefer the Ornn into Xerath, into the Ashe than I kind of do the Maokai, because obviously it's very much more instantaneous. It's not a Mal fight, but it's much more solid engage onto that level of long range where when you Maokai ult from that range, they have enough time to form a phalanx and stop it. I am less confident because I don't see the Shmi or Maokai, which was a power pick for them. However, I think if this is a game, this game here, RIZE are a little bit more comfortable versus what you see coming out of 200 Bandits, because you don't. Yes, Mundo can split push with a Demolish. He one-shots turret still. He's still a kind of split pushing champion. He still is in Lars' wheelhouse, but the style is a little different.
Yes.
It's a little bit less standard, a little bit less standard 200 Bandits, I should say. A little bit more. We're gonna have a tank. We're gonna play front to back. We've got long range carries, and we'll have to see if 200 Bandits can play at a slightly different style compared to what we expect to come out of them, which is carry top lane, carry, Irelia, Fiora, Camille. I'm going to say I prefer RIZE simply because I think that I actually quite like the Ornn here. But that's also because I would love to see a game 3. Personally,
and they had the Victor
I think
as well,
they deserve
right?
it.
We saw the Victor. We saw the damage it did in game number 1. Like, you've got a Victor on your team. You may have to adjust your build path a bit to deal with the Mundo, but that's far from the end of the world. So they have got some power. They've made some adjustments that we like. They've got some matchups that I think have the potential to go a little better for them. And yeah, I think we'd all love this to go to game 3. We'd love to see how this journey ends. We'd love for it to go the distance here today. But they're going to have to tidy that gameplay up because 200 Bandits looked clean in game number 1. And they are certainly looking hot right now coming into game number 2. So for now, we're going to go to another quick break. In a couple of minutes, we'll be back with game 2. Could be the last game of the night. We could just be getting started here, everybody. So we'll see you back here then. Welcome back, everybody. We're into game number 2, the 200 Bandits versus RIZE Esports. Contesting for a chance to qualify. 200 Bandits could secure it with this win. RIZE would like to keep this series going for just a little bit longer. Now, Rob, you were talking to me in the green room just in this break about the RIZE draft, and I think you were becoming more convinced the longer you spoke about it. So, like, why don't you just repeat that just a little bit to just kind of wrap up what the RIZE comp is, why it is good, and why you're actually happy with it.
So whereas when I look at how the draft unfolded, I had serious issues. When I think about how RIZE likes to play the game, I think that gives them a lot of consistency, right? I think last game they were missing, an actual real threat. The way Xiaomei was playing the way, I don't think put down too much damage. Victor solves that problem. You've got a very, very, very hyper standard draft. If you just took 5 champs versus 5 champs, you would obviously say RIZE's draft was more standard. Ornn, however, what was also being said is I think Shmion, for RIZE to come through this game too, Shmion needs an incredible game. He needs to sit there, he needs to not feed over and not die to feed over to a Mundo, can't die to ganks. And in teamfights, he's going to have to be the one finding this Seraph very likely as the initial sort of engage, right? Because when you think about a Wukong, he's still going to have to run through, Ash slows and have to run past a lot and find flanks and things like this. So I run past teammates on the side of 200 Bandits. So it's going to have to be a bit of a Shmion masterclass, in my opinion. Very, very good Ornn ultimates are going to have to come through. I'm more convinced than I was in the draft. Yeah. However, I still see a Mundo versus a Jhin, and I just think if this gets later, you don't have an ADC.
Yeah, and there's a risk that one of the most impressive players, one of the players we've been happiest with the performance of through this process has been DDD, has been a standout for RIZE through these series, has a risk of being essentially removed from this game if it doesn't go well, if Lars is too strong and has great target selection, is able to remove him from the fights. The loss of DDD is a significant loss, and then that falls onto the shoulders of Xiaomei, onto Ryan Gosling to pick up the slack there. And we'll see if are up to the challenge, if it really comes down to that, right? And it could be a little hairy down there, as we see the Ashe lane getting the push as usual. Though the Jhin and the Karma does have the double range advantage, and I think with a couple of levels, if they can land some of those big Mantrid Soul Flares, get some Ws and some bouncing grenades on there, I do think the 2v2 should be playable for them. But yep, at the end of the day, it's down to the players. We'll see what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, Ashe early on, such a strong champion. Obviously, we saw in that previous game the threat of something like an Ashe Rel at level 1, level 2, level 3. It's substantial, right? Getting run down the lane, having to burn the flash. This lane will come down to how well Scooby-Dooby-Doo can play out on the Karma. Can he get the damage down? Because otherwise, you are sort of playing Jhin into Ashe, and it feels kind of awkward. As the game sort of goes on, you can't Jhin ulting while Ashe arrows up's a bit of a risk, and then the lane itself you naturally get pushed in pretty heavily, even though you have that bouncing grenade. As we see, however, it's pretty standard, just junglers full clearing. Both of them ending up on the bot side here, so we could see a little bit of a tussle coming down soon. This is pretty expected, I would say. 2 tanks slapping out in the top lane and fights over the bottom Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, skirmishers are going to meet in that river. Mid lane and bot lane's being pulled in. The flash stun does not connect. It gives Scooby the room to flash away himself. Root connects, but the Rel's already buffered the crash down and will escape. The river control ceded to RIZE, but only a flash for flash trade on the supports.
Something I didn't think about until just now is that RIZE does lack quite a bit of crowd control in these early skirmishes. You've got the Jhin route. You've got a Karma route, which is quite a long time, it takes a long time to come down. Wukong doesn't really bring too much, and the Victor field is very conditional. So I'm now thinking, when it comes down to these objective fights, are they just going to, how are they going to split it? Are they going to end up, rotating up for the first grubs? Because if they're going to start fighting, around sort of level 6, even then, they've only really got the Cyclone for CC. Aggressive CC until the Ornn comes in, low. I'm talking about like around Dragons where the Ornn is still whacking the Mundo in the top lane. It's going to be hard for them to get this sort of target focus down. That damage is absolutely massive for the Jhin. The Rel's not having a great time. Jaffa steps up aggressively. They've done this before. They've made this mistake in the last game, and they gave a kill over to DDD on what was his Jinx. Hopefully they don't do it again. Shmion. Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, we were talking about how out of position the Ornn has to be to die in this lane, and does manage to buffer the charge away, holds onto the flash, will be able to get away without even losing too much HP as bot lane. He's looking for the trade. This is very aggressive from the Bandits. The shield comes out, the crashdown is there, a soul flare bursts beneath the ashes, the altars are coming through, the heals, the trades, the barriers, everything's being dropped, but nobody hits the floor. As DDD, waiting on that W cooldown, will not be able to find it. Jaffa and Never Give Up, they've had to retreat way back out of range.
I think that was a little bit of fear coming out of DDD. He had that 4-shot coming up. Look how low both of those members were, and he ends up flashing away, and obviously the heal coming through from Scooby, things like this. Xiaomei, gotta be careful.
It's 1, 2, 3,
oh my
and
God.
first blood from Trelulu simply clicks better. And the Xerath starting to pay out. We saw this lane going pretty even. Xiaomei was having a pretty decent time going even there, but at the end of the day, if you can't dodge it, dies with the flash up as well. It's a bit of a nightmare.
Massive nightmare. I imagine he didn't expect the Xerath damage on that final shot. It was quite a lot. You'd be surprised. I mean, Xerath we often see
about exact damage, I guess. Very close. Yeah.
We as we obviously see, now we see the grubs being picked up, so they are end up going to do this sort of ejected trade. We're going to see more grubs for 200 Bandits. Kind of favors the way they like to play. Anyway, I was going to say that you don't really expect the damage coming out of a mid Xerath. We often see him in the support role. We often forget this champion was a mid laner for the longest time. And as this game goes on, a Xerath, once he gets towards what you'd imagine to be a Ludens, is going to be very, very, very difficult to deal with as the fight's in top lane. Oh no, Shmion!
Oh, Shmion, no, he's overcommitted at the last second. Luckily held his flash, but the Barbarian Prince is in to seal the deal. As meanwhile in the mid lane, RIZE fighting back. They're the ones finding the counter plays across the map in game number 2. They'll pick up the first kill of their own for their jungler. But Shmion, I think he saw the kill in front of him. He was so close to it, but couldn't get the knock up. The Mundo HP just getting a little bit too high as Jaffa is a little bit too far up in this bot lane. Here is that occurrence that we mentioned that we saw in game number 1. Now he's too far forward. The flash is there, but a beautiful, deadly flourish will lock him in place.
He's die.
That's the flash forward, and Gosling dies to the execute. No credit for Jaffa, and Scooby steps away on less than 100. Oh my goodness, this is not a less chaotic game, Robert, at all. This is just chaotic in a very, very different way. It's a lot more even. RIZE are able to find a lot more so far.
That was almost a bit of a disaster for RIZE, wasn't it? Look how close it was to 2 of them falling down. If they got any extra damage down onto both Scooby or onto Ryan Gosling, that would have been potentially 2 kills. Ends up not going that way. They do end up picking up the kill. Wukong gives his life, but no gold given over. I just want to mention DDD's CS lead here. It's looking pretty good. Where's this come from? It wasn't happening last game. He's kind of shown up on this Jhin. Yes, maybe a little bit scared earlier on, but seems to have been able to get a lead as the wave, it's pushing into them. So he's going to even have a greater chance of getting a CS lead here and maybe zoning off Jaffa. And Kenny, what an interesting early game we've experienced, Trajan. We thought maybe a bit slower teamfight conversations about tank versus tank. That's not happening. I want to point out, though, they're giving over this first Drake here, RIZE. Usually you see an objective trade. But no, 200 Bandits are going to get this in addition to the first grubs.
Yeah, they've just managed to get back on the map at the right time, and they will secure this Hex Tech. That's pretty nice for the Ashe. Loves to get a little bit of extra attack speed early on in that lane as well. The threat is still strong as the ult is ready for Jaffa. Xiaomei may be under threat, doesn't have the flash.
Rip.
Does get clipped by just the end of it, and Trelulu can sew that one up with ease. A second kill for the Xerath, and it's another big mid lane advantage for the Bandits.
And this is the sort of fear when you end up taking, you take Victor early blind and someone does end up being able to pick a very long-range champion when you yourself don't have the same ability to get onto them. Saying last game, if that Xerath had come through for RIZE, there was an Ashe Arrow. There was these kind of ability to get on top of that Xerath, and the space at which 200 Bandits plays makes it a lot harder to play these longer-range champions. But for 200 Bandits, RIZE don't play with that same level of pace. They don't sit there. They're not in your face the entire time. And the champions they've drafted, at least on the bot side, don't have that same level of access without burning large amounts of cooldowns, right? The Wukong's going to have to W forward, then E, then ult, and then he's stuck in no man's land. They need to be ahead in gold for that play to work. Xiaomei, he's not having a great time this game against the Xerath. And Xerath already with the Ludens completed.
Oof,
this champion does so much damage if it's fed, and he's got a Dark Seal. So if he doesn't die, he's gonna be absolutely monstrous. He's got to be a bit careful himself, though, eh?
Charmai's managed to get a decent trade down right here. Has the level 2 boots to no boots at all for the Xerath. So if anyone gets on top of the Xerath, he's not getting away from them. And Charmaine has to invest in the movement speed to try and dodge the skill shots. But ultimately, that is the question that the Xerath lane demands of you in mid lane is just, can you dodge? Am I in your head? Or am I not? And so far, Trululu has been able to land the key skill shots with a little bit of assistance from the team at times as well. And the very ahead of the curve damage that he's now going to pump out is big threat for the Jhin. If the Jhin ults, he can get Ashe ulted, he can get Xerath ulted, the Victor's under threat as well. Ryan Gosling, even before he has any MR or any real health to speak of, he's under threat. A Xerath that is very strong out of lane is a big, big demon.
And I mean, it's also the fact that he is able to follow up if you want to make a play, right? He isn't required necessarily just to land that long-range poke. He has that ultimate, able to aid in other lanes, which is always frustrating when you see a Xerath ulting from across the map and he ends up killing you. Look at the damage already onto this Wukong. Yeah, already half HP. They're going to have to give these grubs. That's going to be 6 grubs, almost definitely over to 200 bandits. They've got a Mundo who can push. They're going to be able to push with the Ashe in maybe a 1-4 setup, as they like to do. It's not RIZE, despite showing a bit of promise early, you know, with the Wukong getting fed, DDD having a great time in that bot lane with that CS lead. The objectives are not going their way.
It's a pretty nasty siege setup with the Ashe and the Xerath potentially, but they do always have to be aware of the Wukong flank with the Ornn ult coming through. RIZE not without tools to try and break a siege if it comes to that. And then Lars in that side lane. If he is going to be a side lane threat, if he's going to be a team fight threat and try and push DDD out as we'd wondered, there's a lot of ways for Lars to approach this. We can at least say that Shmion is coming out of this lane. He is not losing out heavily to Lars. He's died once in this game. There was that well-timed or that very close misstep in that top side, but it's cost him a wave of CS and an assist for his opponent, but he's not getting run over, not getting steamrolled in the same way that he was last time around. So they can at least be confident that Lars is not growing beyond his means into a massive, you know, side lane threat that's ahead in gold. He's just a tank right now as Shmion does have to commit the ultimate in top side, as does Lars, but Shmion has to TP to come back.
And in the end, this is kind of how you expect this lane to go. Once the Mundo gets a little bit of HP, Ornn is able to bully pretty easily early on with the percentage, you know, max health damage. But at this point, it's not really happening as Lars, he's taking a bit. Shmion's not had the base yet. He's quite low. Okay, he gets hit by the cleaver. Imagine nothing's going to come down from it. This is the standard fare you see in a tank versus tank top lane, right? Generally, they hit each other a lot and then no one dies. Where that doesn't necessarily favour either team. But here... Oh, Jammy's been hit.
The Ashe arrow again, all the way from bot lane. The stun time is massive, but the flash away is there. Trululu doesn't find the kill, does manage to escape the flanking Ryan Gosling as well, and Viego looking for an angle to maybe catch Shwame. He's sleeping behind the towers, but Wukong is going to head that off of the pass instead. Takes a lot of damage and has to clone away. Maybe the new target is Ryan Gosling. Gets away from the Heartbreaker. Now Viego taking the shot, and Cyclone gets it done! A beautiful turnaround from the Wukong. And RIZE flat back. They will not be hounded between their towers. Thank you very much.
And I just want to shout out Ryan Gosling in both of these games. He has been the shining light here for RIZE, let's be honest. Gets another kill there on the turnaround play.
Sorry, I just watching the Jhin ults all fly past the stationary targets was that was a good one. Sorry. There's sometimes the League of Legends makes you question your own sanity.
I was just saying Ryan Gosling's performed excellently, I think, so far. See if he can make a carry happen in this game, because last time he got fed and wasn't really able to do much, and that was kind of down to the nature of the game. A couple unlucky bailouts not going quite his way. He's on a champion that has a little bit more agency in these team fights with the sort of AoE that the Cyclone can cover. They are also getting this Drake, which is really good to see, because I had a bit of a fear that they were just giving up every objective, and I don't necessarily think they actually have the ability to outscale here. They have the ability to team fight, but I don't think they actually outscale 200 bandits, particularly while scaling is a pretty contentious subject in the League community at the best of times. Yes. But I think they might struggle with Never Give Up. He is in an awkward spot, but right now, RIZE just need to get out of there. They've got the dragon, okay, and they're just going to go back. A little bit of a threat coming from 200 bandits, but nothing comes from it. This game is pretty bizarre. The CS difference in bot lane already makes my head scratch. A 40 CS lead is incredible, really. He has now got the collector here, the Jhin. he does need to be a little bit accelerated because this Mundo's already got the heart steal. Once he gets that second HP item, you're not touching him. So Rise, if I see a rapid fire here coming out of DDD, someone's gonna have to have words because you're gonna need Infinity Edges.
Oh,
Shmion, he's being shot.
No, man. This is what you said. It's the nightmare. I was winning my 1v1, guys, I swear, but then the Azerath ult, just the ring expands over you and your heart falls into your stomach. Another kill for Trolulu, 3-0 on the Xerath. Shmion gets a second death, not in the 1v1. Unfortunately, this is going to open up Lars to go to town on that turret as the Ashe turret comes to the bot lane. No cleanse for Jhin, but not much distance means he still gets out of it quickly. There's the first turret for Lars as the bot laners will separate in mid. Rame trying to get that mid lane in, but suffers with the laser. Trolulu can just get stuck in there instead. Turns back for the minions. And Ryze still have to be very, very careful right now. Ryan Gosling steals away the Herald. Sneaks around the corner. The Barbarian Prince can do nothing about it. The Wukong doesn't have the flash, but has a Victor to try and assist him as the clone gets over the wall. And the gold lead has opened up over those series of plays from about 0.5k to 2k, but Ryze, they're certainly not out of it. There's still plenty they're acquiring across the map.
It is a bit of a struggle bus on in the mid lane, right? Look at Zhao Mei.
Yeah.
He's being forced away from his turret.
Yeah.
This is 6 grubs for the side of 200 bandits, so they are going to push very, very fast. Now they're just looking for a play on Jaffa because they need to make something happen. Let's see if these shots land this time.
He got one, got two. He's out of range right now, but the root is there. The barrier as well, but DDD has the shots for it, and Viega around the corner gets a stun onto Karma. Doesn't get rooted by the W, drops a Heartbreaker and finds a counter as DDD needs to step out of there. Now Ryan Gosling getting involved with the Cyclone onto 2. The Viega Heartbreaker doesn't get much of a distance, and the Q comes out. Gosling on a rampage, and 5-5 are the kills. Ryze again, not giving anything up for free right now, as the Xerath ult once again.
Oh no, not again.
Not again. He's up against the wall. Perfect placement from Trolulu. 4-0 cannot miss today on the Xerath.
He doesn't miss. He does not miss those Xerath ultimate shots. That is a bit heartbreaking, really, for DDD. They managed to get up the kill onto Jaffa. They get the kill onto Lunkafer as well, and ends up falling to another Xerath ult. Right now, they're going to have to figure out a way to get this Xerath out of the game. Shmion hasn't been able to join a fight yet. There hasn't been a fight where these two tanks have joined. And that is really your main sort of access without burning, summoners and things. Like we saw there, Trolulu got jumped on by Ryan Gosling. Trolulu still has flash. So he just walked away. So now they need to come up with something here, Ryze, because yes, they get a few return kills. They pick up a couple kills here and there, but this Xerath is so strong. 2 items finished. Storm Surge completed at 18 minutes. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, caught out.
Is in the middle of nowhere in the mid lane with no friends, no backup. The TPs are coming in, and Ryze have made a bit of a misstep here. They've piled into a bad fight from the get-go. They lose 2 supporting members, and 200 bandits have to push up mid.
This could be those 2 kills could break the entire back of Ryze, because right now everything is available. Ryan Gosling's jungle, it's not his jungle anymore. They're going to get the mid turret as well here, you'd imagine, here. 200 bandits on the next wave. Oh, okay, they don't get it. They can still hit it. Let's see if they end up picking this up, because if they end up picking up anything on the map here, taking away Ryan Gosling's jungle, mid-turret, things like this, the pace just accelerates to the speed at which 200 bandits want to play, and they love playing fast. We've seen it so many times that they just keep going, keep going, keep going. And when you've got a champion like this Xerath, where they're going to be able to pick one person off, and the next rotation of cooldowns, pick another one off in these kind of team fights, that is not a game Ryze want to play. I just want to mention that Shmion there, with that TP, he was TPing like he maybe was playing a Maokai. The Ornn, you can't TP that aggressively if your team aren't there. You more want to be behind your team, looking for a play. Not necessarily completely behind them, but you want to be far enough away we can get a decent Ornn ultimate off and then play aggressive. You don't want to be immediately tanking in front line, because when the enemy team have any amount of CC, the Ornn ultimate never gets put down.
Yeah, you just can't get that second hit off. And while Ryze were able to hold on to that mid lane turret, Trolulu got some damage on the bot lane outer and very much have taken control of this map once again. 6 scrubs, even dragons, and the gold lead starting to open up again. It's not as disastrous, not as catastrophic for Ryze as game 1 was, but it's starting to swing away from them once again. They'd love to get those Ornn items on deck pretty soon. A couple more levels needed for Shmion before they get there. You need a way for DDD to get this damage on the Jhin into the fight.
They're going.
Wukong to get to the backline. Shmion finds Trululu.
They've got
The
Trululu!
critical target with the root. There's the knockup. The CC chain is there, but do they have the damage to get it over the line? Xerath escapes, and the fight continues. Ryan Gosling cannot find the Ashe, and now they're being pushed back. Viego's been traded into the backline, but Trululu gets the ult off, and this fight is still going, but the front line of 200 Bandits stands tall with Trululu safe and sound in the back. And this looks so rough for them, so dangerous for the Xerath, but the Bandits still come out on top.
Oh, and that's absolutely soul-destroying to watch, Trajan. They get the Ornn ultimate onto the Xerath. They get the Jhin Deadly Flourish onto the Xerath. Xerath's going to be a little bit careful.
Make it nice and easy,
Okay.
folks. There we go.
Former Phalanx, stop. Don't let him be shot. Protect the president. Yeah, right there, that's heartbreaking. Wukong wasn't quite in position. If there's anyone else slightly closer, Xerath falls and the fight's probably, it might not necessarily go completely the way of RIZE, but they get that shutdown. He's now got 650 gold shutdown, 7 kills, 10 stacks on the Magi's, just upgraded that. And that is maybe your one shot, one opportunity to actually pick up this Xerath, because they're not going to let that happen again, RIZE.
Okay, Harold. Yeah, that was that was a very a very good opportunity, not quite captured by RIZE in the end, and they fall further behind. We can see the tools that their comp has to try and find those picks, but it's been razor thin margins in so many critical moments of Trululu getting that last kill to keep the gold coming up, escaping there on 200 HP, and they continue the dragon stacking. We hit the 21-minute mark. Baron now a possibility. By this point in game number 1, 200 Bandits already had the Baron and had started to push for the end. RIZE with a much better performance in game 2, but it is still looking dire for them. They are running out of options.
Yeah, they're going to have to pray to get something very similar to what happened, but this time having Wukong in position. I think that's really as plain as it can be said. There wasn't any other damage that really came down once they managed to get that route. And that is the target. I'll keep harping on that fact. But right now, Xerath is 3 items. Yes, one's a Magi's, but that's still 10 stacks. That's a lot of damage. You need to shut this down. He's already working towards his 4th item at 22 minutes. He's going to get some gold on side lane here. And you don't really have an ability, if he's left a free hit, to tank the damage, because that's not how Xerath works. He doesn't care if Ornn stood in front of you, because he's just going to hit you through him. It's a difficult one here for RIZE. They're going to have to hope to get another similar group up. They've got Shmion's TP. Let's hope to see if he can use it, not defensively, but rather into a position where he can get a great Ornn ultimate off onto that Xerath, and maybe onto that Ashe as well. And on the other side, we'll have to see if Victor, who might honestly have to burn Flash aggressively just to put damage down, because it's been so hard for Xiaomei this game to really do anything. He is building the Blackfire into what you'd assume to be the Liandry's and then anti-heal item. So he is going the sort of more tank-destroying build, the more DPS focus rather than burst. But he's going to have to get that damage down somehow, or else they're not going to Div 1 RIZE. And this has been a goal for so long.
200 Bandits aggressively maneuvering into the jungle. Viego using the camouflage to get through there as the push being halted from Victor. The fight's already breaking out, though. We're running out of time. The rail pulls them in, and legendary goes the Xerath as Ryan Gosling. The leader, the shining star, has already fallen, and the rest are following suit. 3 dead for RIZE. 200 Bandits force the issue in the topside jungle and come away with 4 kills for none.
You just see there at the end, the Jhin trying to do damage onto the Mundo. You see why this Jhin pick, it's going to struggle even with the lead that it got. That again, RIZE, we saw it almost in that last game, right? The final fight for 200 Bandits, RIZE sort of disrespecting, walking in without all their members. We see another TP from a member of RIZE that sort of results in their death. It was just, they just play too slow here, RIZE. 200 Bandits, they're always on top of you. They're going to get this Baron, and this looks like it's going to be an open and shut case. 200 Bandits are going to Div 1.
Yep, took a little bit longer this time, but once they managed to open that lead up again, RIZE, it's when the pressure is on, the cracks start to appear, and we get a little bit flustered, a little bit flailing going into these fights, and it just goes from bad to worse. What could have been 1 pick in the jungle turns into 3 picks in the jungle, turns into 4 picks in the jungle, and it just goes so much more wrong. than it could have if it had just kind of been halted and nipped in the bud. But right now they have their backs against the wall, Rob. You're absolutely right. The chance is still there. The door is open, but it is the tiniest crack of light as 200 Bandits bear down on them with the Baron buff. As we can see Shmeon separated away, far too deep out, away from the safety of the towers, and the rest of the Bandits will swarm over him, securing a 9th kill. Ash Arrow straight onto the next target, and again, it's one target after another. It's never just one kill. It's one play into the next, and the Bandits keep pushing up.
And right here, this is looking to be the end, you'd imagine, because they're going to keep going. They've got Baron, they've got 6 scrubs. They're going to have to force a play here, RIZE, because don't forget, you've got everything available, essentially, other than Ash Arrow. Yes, there's no Zerathol. He doesn't need it. If he keeps putting this damage down, they're going to be chunked out and forced back to base. They're going to get this in him. They can keep going if they really want to, because they're so strong. RIZE are the ones who have to make a play. Okay, they are going to choose to back off. But RIZE there, I respect Shmi on what he was trying to do. He's trying to get an angle, trying to find a pick, trying to make something happen. But you have to find the perfect fight here, RIZE. You have to find the perfect fight. You can't sit there and take a fight where you go one into die into the next, and you're kind of not all on board, all in sync, because I mean, just look at the damage that Xerath does. He's going to insta-kill someone if he finds them. Look at, you know, the damage that even Jaff has been able to put down. He's going to kill him. This is the go button for RIZE. They've got to make it happen now.
They get the knock-up onto Jaffa, onto Bavarian Prince. Viego is out of there, but he's still alive again, and Gosling is deep, but he still drops down. Shmeon doing what he can, tries to get more damage onto Viego, but they can't quite get these kills as Lars is just charging into the base, zoning off 3, and the Bandits storm forward again. RIZE had one option left. They went for the Hail Mary, but there's the last kill. The Xerath into the Jhin. And Division 1 just got a bit more crowded in there, everybody, as 200 Bandits have kicked the door in. Welcome to Div 1, boys.
And a 12-0-8 Xerath performance to seal the deal. Trululu, who, honestly, when I watched them in the lower bracket, when I watched them in Div 2 playoffs, he was struggling a little bit, but today he's come up absolutely massive. Game 1 on the Victor, but looked decent, but Game 2, this was an incredible performance from start to finish. Solo kill early on, into another kill, into a kill on side lane onto Shmeon, into just always being in the right space. He gets picked, tries to get picked once, survives it, survives the onslaught, and just doesn't fall. Mage Eyes doesn't care. He's so strong. And what a heartbreak for RIZE, but congratulations to 200 Bandits, who they maybe sat there and thought, we didn't do great against Prod. Maybe RIZE can bring it to us. They brought us to before. Doesn't happen. To be honest,
no.
RIZE got wiped off the Rift today.
Yeah, they got cleaned out. It was 23 minutes in Game 1, something like 26, maybe 27 in Game 2. It was conclusive. It was very conclusive for 200 Bandits. We can't give enough credit to Trolulu for that game. It's a champion where you have to hit every ability to be worth it. If you miss your abilities, he's worse than useless. But every single time he had to hit the ult, you had to hit the Q, you had to hit that skill shot to get the kill, he hits it. Trolulu did not miss. We said it in game and we'll say it again. He did not miss today. Never died. Full stack Medjai's. Absolutely no notes for that Xerath in that game. And despite the great efforts of Ryan Gosling once again, trying to do what he could on the Wukong, had a decent series, all told, a very strong series individually. But the journey for RIZE, it continues. The long, epic saga of promotion to Div 1 does not end here. They remain in Division 2 going into the next season. And we'll have to see what they can bring to the table next time. Their miracle run ends at the final hurdle, as 200 Bandits are the ones taking that 10th spot.
Yeah, and now we've obviously, that's Div 1 rather, locked. We obviously have open quals for Div 2 coming up in the future. I believe there'll be some community streams for that one that work there that people have put forward. But Div 1, we now know that the final 2 teams are going to be Brod and Friends and 200 Bandits, or whatever they may go by in the future. Who knows? Yep. We'll have to see how they perform, because Div 2 this split, it was a lot of ups and downs. A miracle run from RIZE going to the finals, and going up against the rest of the competition in Div 1. We know all the teams are going to be revamping their rosters. There's going to be big changes.
Yep.
Let's see if this core of 200 Bandits, let's see who they bring forward, is the return of Lars to Div 1.
Yeah. That's what
in
we
his
love
spit
to
on
see.
Berthic, he was a bit of a
everyone
monster.
like that. Everyone liked that, the return of Lars to Div 1 UKL for sure. And he had a very solid series, but demonstrated the ability to simply be a tank top and do his exact role, which is to run at Jin in the fights and go, whoa, you can't see past me. And that's exactly what happened, right? So Lars is still bringing the Fioras, the Gwens, the Camille's. He's still dominating individually and in the side lane when he needs and displaying that good macro, but he's also playing what his team needs him to play. And there's other carries that can take the spotlight when they need to. So it is maybe a bit more of a well-rounded team that has qualified in here. Like we say, whether it ends up being the same 5-stack unit, we just don't know. That's just how the ERLs, especially the lower division ERLs and the regional leagues work. But I'm glad to see Lars back, and I think he's shown that he absolutely deserves to be back, along with the rest of 200B. So very happy with that as well.
And they get to prove themselves again. I think they were a little bit disappointed. I just want to mention they were a little bit disappointed about not making finals in Division 2. And when you're sat there and you had teams in Div 1 making their rosters, you sit there and go, oh, I really wish I could put out, the UK players. I believe Toulouse a UK player, XD's a UK player. There's a lot of, requirements. Obviously, you need 3 UK players to play in Div 1 and Div 2, UK LTR. And they actually, these players now can say, look, we've just promoted. So even if they don't stay with 200 Bandits, they now have an ability to say, look how good we are. We can get picked up. We've got a couple weeks now, I believe, until Div 1 officially starts. And we'll have to see what rosters come out of that. Because I'm so excited. I'm a big roster. I love roster changes. I love seeing where players go, what crazy teams are made. So hopefully that comes through.
Yeah, and lest we forget that UKL Div 1 is now 1 degree of separation from Reckless and Nemesis and Crown Shot. You know what I mean? This Div 1 UKL goes into RPS, which is the promotion series into NLC. The Div 2 has been stripped out. The system has been simplified. You are now 1 league away from that level of competition. So getting into this Div 1 with the kind of rosters that we're coming through, the rosters we're seeing being put into place in the NLC, it is going to be a crazy year for the NLC ecosystem. And the 4 Nations are very excited to be a part of that. So we cannot wait to see what happens. Thank you everyone for watching here today, watching the Bandits make that final spot in Division 1. Thank you, Rob, for casting with me as always. And thank you, Zoe, on production as well, for doing a fantastic job once again, as always. For everybody, we will see you back here in couple weeks, I guess. The socials will have the information on it. We will be back here on this channel. Something like that with Div 1 action, and Div 2, of course, will have the open qualifiers kicking out and starting up as usual as the year progresses. So keep an eye on the socials for that. We'll see you back here on the stream. We hope you're all as excited as we are for this year of 4 Nations competition. We will see you when we see you.
See you later.